Welcome aboard the Athletics Can't Wait Jets podcast, your nonstop shop for all things Jets with Tim McMaster, Zack Rosenblatt, and Marissa Dunn.
Can't wait.
Robert Saleh may not be in Indianapolis for the NFL Combine, but we are, or to be more accurate, Zach, Marissa, and Connor Hughes are. I'm Tim McMaster along with those guys. We are catching you up on the latest Jets offseason news here on the Can't Wait podcast. Thank you for joining us on YouTube, or if you're checking out the audio version, please subscribe. Also, if you haven't already, we have lots to get to as long as technology holds up. We have a history of that not working out here on the Can't Wait podcast, but I'm confident because there are other people involved that we can do it today. We're going to try to stay
helping us out. So, I mean, nothing can go wrong.
I just want to see Marissa have to get a bucket of ice and store the MiFi underneath a table to get out of the sun. I think that was just A+ producing.
Wait, where was it? You guys were talking about that before. Where was that?
Our last live show was Connor, you want to take you know that the
so my JJ Jastrzemski does a lot of SNY stuff and I think he has a podcast now, but I'm pretty sure they're a competitor of the Athletics, so I'm not going to plug it. You can look it up. He did a golf outing, which he does every year, like the JJ Invitational or something like that. It's basically just a bunch of his friends within the media. So we did there. So I was messaging. I was like, what if we come to a live show there? We'll bring Tim, we'll bring Marissa. It'll be a blast. We'll interview because I think Beningo was going to be there and like a couple other Jet people. So I was like, it'll be fun to get it going. And it started great. I mean, it was awesome. We have a great photo from there. But the problem is that very quickly, what I didn't realize is not having a tent and just baking underneath. This was right after I got married. So this was probably July. Baking under the July sun, it didn't end well.
Yeah, it was eventful, but we're at Radio Row right now. We got a nice little setup. Yeah, so happy to be here. Thank you for taking the time, Connor, to join us as he's
always
here
for
tweeting,
you, Marissa. Just always, I'm tweeting out the link of the show.
Yeah,
see that stopped when I left.
Mr. Cool Guy over here, Mr. TV, who's on all these, TV hits.
Big time guy. I'm surprised you made time for us.
He's got his really jacket on, and
Yeah. I said that the packing for the combine got harder when you have to worry about not just throwing a couple quarters in and a flannel and being like, oh no, wait, now I need blazers. I actually had to check a bag.
Can't wear joggers on TV.
No, you can. You just got to.
Shoot below the waist.
Yeah, because I've done the blazer and tie.
Because I see you're wearing no pants right now.
Yeah, that's true. But that's normal. It is Wednesday.
Tim, you got to
what's on your mind, Tim?
All right, I'll take it back here. This show is going to be like this the whole time. I'm just going to check in every once in a while.
We got a lot
you
to
guys got me for. I don't have anything. I have to do a hit later with Janae, but that's it. So you guys got me for a long time.
Oh, God.
What I was going to say was we're going to try to stay out of the darkness on this show now that Aaron Rodgers is out of the darkness. We'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about Joe Douglas and what he had to say at the Combine on Tuesday, his thoughts on Derek Carr, Quinnen Williams, and more. So lots to get to. And I am obviously jealous that you guys are all there together. I think there was plans. You said you guys are all going to go out to dinner and include me on a tablet and an empty chair. Is that still happening? Are you guys doing that tonight?
We're gonna try to do that.
If we can make some space for you.
Yeah. And I'm in recovery right now. I had a rough one. And not for the really fun time that you would think, oh, Connor's at the Combine. He's probably so hungover. It's actually, no, I got food poisoning. It was just absolutely dragged for the last 12 hours.
Food poisoning.
I swear to God.
Connor showed up at there's the main bar that everybody goes to. It's called Prime. It's at the steakhouse. There's that meme from Simpsons where the old man walks in, puts his jacket on, put that back on the hook, takes it off, puts it on, walks out. That was Connor. He walked in. Because I'm going to be here for a little bit. 30 seconds later, I got to go.
It was bad. I was, you guys remember when I was on the show, there are times when I think I'm a doctor. There are times when I think I'm like a doctor and I know how things work and I can just, connect these dots. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We're just going to go forward with it. So obviously I had food poisoning. It clears you out. And I was like, oh, there's definitely nothing left. I'm totally fine now. Let's recover and go out. And I literally got to the bar, walked in and was like, oh no, hell is just starting to break loose. And I immediately went right back home and was on my, for the next every 2 hours waking up. It was, I literally woke up today. I was like, what am I supposed to do?
This is exactly what people tuned in for.
Oh, yeah.
The Jets are,
I've talked enough about quarterbacks. I'm good.
Yeah.
So yeah, but now of course, right after having, getting food poisoning, we're going to go out for Mexican food tonight. So that's going to go well. Sure, that's Marissa for the third time she's going there.
Second, but Yes. So it's been an eventful week so far for the Jets. Right, Tim? Right, Zach? Right, Connor?
Wow, everyone does
Thank you.
transitions now. Where the hell
Thank
did
you, Marissa. Let's move on to let's talk about another podcast. A podcast I didn't know existed until yesterday. That is the Aubrey Marcus podcast. Good friends of Aaron Rodgers, apparently. And they dropped the trailer for today's episode yesterday about how Aaron was going to talk all about his time in the darkness, his 4 days, and what came out of it. And I know the initial thought I had was this is going to be a waste of time to listen to. So thankfully I didn't listen to it. I don't know if either of you guys did, or you just read the cheat sheet.
Oh, it was Tyler Dunn.
He did a lot of the transcribing. And then Matt Schneidman from The Athletic.
He walked so we could run.
Matt Schneidman listened to the entire podcast and tweeted some thoughts. It was apparently an hour and a half podcast or something.
Yeah, hour and 40 minutes, I think. So I have a few quotes and we can get into it. But the moral here is that, as expected, Aaron Rodgers did not make a decision on the podcast. He basically said, I'm going to make a decision soon, which is something he's been saying for quite a while. I think at one point he said last year, this dragged out till March 8th. I want to get this done much sooner this year. Well, we're in March now, and we're still waiting on Aaron Rodgers. But he did say, quote, better for everyone if I make a decision soon. He brought up Brett Favre and back in that time and what a tough time that was on him, not knowing if Brett Favre was going to be back with the Packers when eventually Brett Favre was traded to the Jets, ironically. But then this is the one quote I wanted to share with you guys for this. He said, I don't want to drag anybody around. Look, I'm answering questions about it because they asked about it. I'm talking about it because it's important to me. If you don't like it, if you think it's drama, you think I'm being a diva or whatever, just tune it out. That's fine. But this is my life. It's important to me, and I'll make the decision soon enough. And then we'll go down the road and we'll be really excited about it. Interesting that at least he's self-aware enough to know that people are calling him a diva. That's what I kind of basically took out of this, is that in all the talk he's doing, he at least realizes that. Do you guys have thoughts? I'll just kind of pass it on to you guys. Thoughts on realistic timeline for this decision, and whatever else about this podcast?
Well, I'll say it is always funny when he says stuff like that, or that when he's surprised that people are I can't believe everybody went crazy about the darkness retreat I'm going on. You mean the thing that nobody's ever done in the NFL? And you're a famous guy, 300 square and you're I'm making a decision about your future. You act surprised that everybody's all interested in what he says. You ignore it. Well, if I turn on any sports channel, they're talking about you, so it's not easy to ignore. But anyway, I mean, Connor and I have talked a lot about this. Obviously, I have no idea how this is going to go. I don't know when it's going to end. He says he doesn't want to drag it out as he's dragging it out. I think it'll be before free agency. I think we'll know if it's Carr or Rodgers. I think we'll know who the Jets quarterback is within the next couple weeks, probably. But there also is
starts March.
Yeah, March.
The window
15th?
is March 13th.
Yeah, the legal time. That's free agency.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, the Jets obviously would like to have their quarterback by then. The Rodgers thing, there's trade negotiations that you have to factor in, and I imagine they probably want to get assurances from him that'll be there for more than a year. And Carr, there's contract negotiations, but yeah, I don't know. Aaron Rodgers is such a wild card. A lot of those quotes made me think he's not going to retire. But I don't know. He could come out next week and say I'm retiring, and I don't think people in the Packers know what he's going to do, and so the Jets are kind of waiting. I don't know if it's the best idea to keep waiting for him, but I don't have an idea of when it's going to happen. But I think before free agency, I feel pretty confident.
I thought it was going to be this week. I honestly thought that at some point, and it still might. I mean, what is it? Wednesday? So I mean, it still might. I mean, it could happen later today. I don't know when this podcast was recorded. It could happen Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I mean, I still thought that there was a chance that the Jets wouldn't know necessarily who their quarterback was going to be, but we were going to figure out Aaron Rodgers, and then Aaron Rodgers was that domino to fall, whether he was saying, I'm going to retire, I want to go back to Green Bay, I want to change the scenery, whatever that was. But the thing is that I keep digging on this, and everyone on this beat keeps digging on this. And the thing is that the reason why nobody knows is because literally nobody knows. I mean, Aaron Rodgers right now is ghosting Matt LaFleur and the Packers general manager. He's not talking to them. Yeah. Obviously, if he's not talking to them, he's not talking to any of the reporters. It's not like he's calling up Saleh. It's not like he's talking to him. I know he's tight with Hackett, but it's not like he's breaking that one down as well, where it's just nobody knows what Aaron Rodgers wants. And until Aaron Rodgers lets everyone know what Aaron Rodgers wants, whether it is retirement, whether it is the Packers, whether it is the Jets, whether it is the Raiders, or I don't think that's going to necessarily happen anymore. You're in this ugly holding pattern. And make no mistake about it. Like, he is loving every single second of this. He's the guy that's like, guys, what do you keep paying attention to me? Like, but by the way, look what I'm about to do over here. I mean,
it reminds me of when we're in training camp and you're acting all surprised that people are like calling your name. You're like, I'll stop it. I'm fine. I'll come take a photo with you. This is the worst. Hey, you want a photo?
Good one, Zach.
Yeah. But my thing with it is like here's the thing. And I got to the point yesterday where I basically was like, I think I'm just out on the Aaron Rodgers thing, where it's like, because I've been, again, it's my opinion and it doesn't matter. And my whole stance with every time I report and every time I write is that it's my job to get you to know what the Jets are doing and then try to relay that. It's the same thing we all do. But my stance, I was like, you know what, I'm going to voice my opinion on it. And my opinion on it was like, you can't wait forever for Aaron Rodgers. And at some point, if you're not going to wait forever for Aaron Rodgers, what you can have in the assurances of what you can have in Derek Carr and signing Derek Carr, I think that takes precedence over like waiting and waiting and waiting as Rodgers drags his feet, only to then have Rodgers say, yeah, I want to come back and I want to play for the Packers. Carr goes to the Panthers, and suddenly you're left with Jimmy or Tannehill. And it's like, well, why the hell would you do that? But I think the X factor of it all is that we can say like the distractions aren't worth it. The circus that might come with Aaron Rodgers is not worth it. Like, just go with the safer bet in Derek Carr and get Derek Carr. But the thing is, and this is what I think people, myself included, I was like, basically I got to the point where I was like, go get Carr. Just forget about Aaron Rodgers, blow this up, just get the assurances now. But then what you go back to, and I was brought back to by a couple people I talked to, were like, what you're forgetting is that Derek Carr is a very, very good quarterback in the NFL. He is. He's a very, very good quarterback. I think if you put the right pieces around him, a good offensive coordinator, not a dysfunctional system like the Raiders are, weapons, all that fun stuff, you can probably make the argument that he becomes maybe not great, but he's right up there as a top 8, top 10 quarterback, no doubt. When we talk about Aaron Rodgers, though, we are not talking about top 8, top 10 quarterback in the NFL. We are talking about one of the top 5 to ever walk planet Earth. Like he is that good. And I know he had a bad season.
He was at some point, though,
yeah,
right?
But here's the thing, and this is where, like, again, you have to trust who you talk to. But it's I look at last year and I'm like, I see a guy who just turned 39, is coming off bad season. He's still do 26.
Yeah, like I said, the best Jet season ever. Is
his bad season. But it's like, okay, is it just going to get worse? Is it going to get older? Are you only going to have him for 2 years? Blah blah blah. But what the people that I've touched base with, who I really trust, who would be involved in the situation, outside involved in the situation, just know more about quarterback play than I could ever dream of. They look at it and they say he had a bum thumb he hurt his thumb against the Giants in like week 5, and that really took an impact on him. The weapons weren't really there. It all kind of fell apart for Green Bay. He still is good, but when he's healthy, he is still that top 3, top 5 quarterback in the NFL, still top 3, 5 quarterback to ever play in the NFL ever. And if you're the Jets and you're looking at that, it's so tantalizing and it's so not sobering, but it's almost like it's intoxicating to look at this roster that they have with an offensive line that will be better when they move some money around and fortify the line. You've got Breece Hall, you've got the weapons on wide, you have a defense you believe is championship ready already, and then you add a player of Aaron Rodgers' capability to that. I think the Jets are a contender within the AFC with Derek Carr. If you get Aaron Rodgers, they are a contender to win the Super Bowl. Like they a contender, maybe not a contender, maybe favorite. Like if you get Aaron Rodgers of 2020, 2021 on this Jets team, and that's why they're willing to wait. That's why they're waiting this one out. Do I agree with it all the time? I don't know, but it's tough. It's tough. And you just wish that Rodgers would come out here at some point and just be like, hey, I want to play. I don't want to play. And then the Jets can move forward. But the reason why they're waiting is because this guy is just that good. There is a legitimate, I know you can talk about the circus and you can talk about you have to trade picks to get Rodgers and all that stuff, but the difference in talent between Aaron Rodgers and Derek Carr is so substantial. And that's not a shot at Derek Carr. It's a testament to how Aaron Rodgers is. Right now we're waiting.
All right, we got a question in the chat that I think is worth asking you guys. It's from Ragnajet. He says, hey, Zach and Connor, don't you think Aaron already had some private talks about the future with Nathaniel and that JD already knows things? Otherwise, would they not risk losing Carr by waiting?
This is a good question. I do get the sense that they've Hackett has that relationship. I really don't think knows what Rodgers wants to do. So I really think that I know they hired Hackett kind of now direct into getting Aaron, but I don't think it's really that simple. Because you look at the other teams that are even looking at him. You have Devontae Adams is more of a dirt than Nathaniel Hackett. Like, I don't know. That I'm not sure in all this. Just like, yes, the Jets should go and get him if they can. There's a lot of steps between that and like the trade act. You know, you have to. He has to say, I want to leave the Packers. He has to say, I want to go to the Jets, which, you know, I'm not 100% convinced that, like, he's like, absolutely, like, that's where to go. And then you have to negotiate the trade, do the trade. And then after you get Rodgers, you also have the offensive line. You have to get some help on defense still. You have to make some decisions of cutting some of these guys. They probably need another receiver. So, like, it's not like a straight line. And so it's a lot more complicated than just signing Derek Carr right now, which is what I'm with Connor, and that I would just do that because Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh are, you know, their jobs are on the line here. Like if they wait for Rodgers and don't get him and they don't get Carr and Carr goes to the Saints and, you know, you have to settle for Jimmy G and he gets hurt in week 5, like all of a sudden everybody's really sweating their jobs and they all know this. And Joe Douglas really tough task ahead this off. He's got to walk a really fine line. He has to get the quarterback. He has to, you know, and then he's not going to have as much money to fill out the roster with like star guys. So he has to like hit on everything like he did last year. Sign a DJ Reed type guy, you know, hit on all your draft picks. Then you have a really good roster. But there's a lot in here, and it's risky if you wait for it. I get that it's worth the risk if you get him ultimately. And he sells tickets, which I'm sure is a big appeal for Woody. Like he's a guy. Everybody's gonna be wearing a Rodgers jersey in that stadium next year if they get him. So I don't know. I don't know what you think. Question, but
look, the truth is that we said nobody knows. Like the Packers do know, the Jets do. When kind of what Zach said, I thought as soon as they hired Hackett, I was like, there's your line to Rodgers. You're going to know, you're going to have it. And all the Jets know basically what they've been saying continually is that they just know they're going to have a veteran quarterback. They're going to get a veteran quarterback in here, start ahead of Zach Wilson. That's the guy. But I think does come a point where you have to say, we can't wait any longer. Yeah. Like there does, but we are not there yet. Now, is it out this week? Is it early next week? Now, from standing, Carr wants to be signed before the legal tampering. He wants to then help recruit free agents to the team that he ends up going to. So he goes to Carolina, if he goes to New Orleans, if he goes to the Jets, help bring other players with him, calls, make recruiting and all that stuff. So you ultimately need, in my opinion on this, the Jets have to come away with either Aaron Rodgers or Derek Carr. If you want to wait, and then you get Aaron Rodgers, great. But what you can't afford to do is wait Rodgers, lose out on Carr, and then have Jimmy. Because I don't think Jimmy made a lot of sense when LaFleur was this team's coordinator. I don't think it makes as much sense now, even though Robert loves him. And
also, there's not to cut you off, but there's also no guarantee he signs with you either. Like other teams are going to be interested in Jimmy G also.
Exactly. And if you're Jimmy, like I'm sure that guy who love New York.
Oh,
yeah. Sure, absolutely would
and
love that.
They would have to overpay him because you can't afford to like not.
He has, then he has all the cards and they're paying him more. And then it's like, well, what is Jimmy? Like it's a very difficult situation. You're just hoping for some kind of resolution. When you read those quotes that have been transcribed, and stuff like that, it does seem like Rodgers is going to make a decision sort of soon. It's just a matter of really going to try to milk this one till like March 10th. Suddenly then he tells the Jets, and the Jets have 3 days to get something done with Carr. Now, the one thing I will say is that it does seem like Carr is at least aware of the situation. So it's not like Carr basically going saying, you know, what, it's a consolation prize. Like I'm like, oh, so just because, you know, the prom queen said no, now you want to go with me? Like, it doesn't seem like I think he's aware that Aaron Rodgers is a different animal. Like he is a different animal. And until you know where he's going, then it's going to go elsewhere. But if, again, we say this about Carr, like I think the reason he might also be willing to wait sort of with the Jets is that he knows the Jets are his best opportunity. Like the Jets are going to give him the best coaching staff, and they're going to give him the best defense and the best weapons and the receivers. And there's the New York thing, certainly, but if they win, then there is no New York thing.
It's all about winning. Yeah. What and I just blanked on what I was going to say.
No, but it's just going off of, like I said, it's a tough spot right now for the Jets to be in, but it's not like they have to have their decision right now at this moment. But there is going to come a time where it's like, well, we can't wait any longer. But after that podcast, again, there's no date. You have no idea when that was recorded. I don't know if they said when it was recorded. Like, who knows? But at this point, it's just you wish for the sake of everyone that was involved, like Matt LaFleur, thinking about Robert Saleh, the Packers receivers, Christian, all these guys that just want to know. And I know I talked to somebody in the league about it, and I was like, I feel for the Packers because I feel like they're just being dragged along, and I feel for the Jets that are dragged along. And I was like, and I feel for Matt LaFleur. And I was like, the guy's like, I mean, it's like you're a head coach. You either have a top 5 quarterback, or you're going to have to figure out maybe Jordan Love is like they're a Super Bowl contender with him,
and he has to sit there on Tuesday and watch Pat McAfee show to find out
exactly. And like he's not like the guy's not talking like all of this stuff, and then it's just like, but everything I've heard about is just Matt knows this is the song and dance, and this is what he has to do in order
to with the territory.
Yeah, he's learned to accept it. It's the same thing that happened last year, and the thing that happened the year before that. It's just dealing with it, but it's just a shame because, like I said, the Jets are obviously in this holding pattern as well, because if they knew Rodgers was, if Rodgers came out today and I'm going to Green Bay, I want to go back to Green Bay, I want to retire, the Jets would be finding for whatever corridor down in Indianapolis that Derek Carr is hanging out with.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they get immediately. Like they would be like, let's finalize this, let's go.
And by the way, what I meant to say before is another fact, and we'll get into this with Derek Carr. Tim wants to talk about him next, but like I think he's probably waiting for Rodgers too, because if Rodgers says he's going back to the Packers, the Jets are going to be too. Oh, yeah. Like he's gonna be able to get a lot of money.
Oh, he'll be able to get close to 40. I would think. I know he's like.
If Daniel Jones is asking for, I talked about this with Robert Mays yesterday. If Daniel Jones is at 45, Derek Carr is a lot more accomplished than Daniel Jones.
He's
like
a good ball player.
I'm very curious to see what the contract will look like. But yeah, Tim, you want to talk about Derek next, or we got a break?
We got a break first, but yeah, we're going to come back, talk about Derek Carr, talk about Quinnen Williams, cap space, all that fun stuff. Kind of live from Indianapolis. This is the Can't Wait podcast. Okay, it's the moment we've all been waiting for here on the Can't Wait podcast. That's right. Magic Spoon is back with us. We are back eating the delicious cereal that you can get away with as an adult. Magic Spoon has replicated your favorite childhood cereals to taste good, but each serving contains 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and 4 to 5 net grams of carbs per serving. It's a keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, and soy-free way to relive those moments watching your favorite cartoons. Plus, it's only 140 calories a serving. It's like there's magic in every spoonful. With over 8 unique flavors, you won't get bored of feeling good with Magic Spoon. The best thing to do, let's be honest, is to mix these. But my personal favorite, cookies and cream is great. Honey Nut is great. And Frosted is great. But if you take the Frosted and the cookies and cream together, magic. The super popular previously limited edition only flavor is back, birthday cake. We're celebrating our birthday early with this fan favorite. If you've been a loyal listener to the Can't Wait podcast, you know how much all of us love Magic Spoon. And actually, now it's time to get Zach involved as well. So head to magicspoon.com/wait to grab a custom bundle of cereal and try the magic for yourself. And be sure to use our promo code WAIT at checkout to save $5 off your order. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free cereal at magicspoon.com/wait and use the code WAIT to save $5 off. Thank you, Magic Spoon, for sponsoring this episode. I thought the chat was going to be more excited about the return of Magic Spoon than they were. I guess I'm the only one that's that excited. But Michael Dunn 1A did jump in and say that fitting that Connor is back at the same time as Magic Spoon. No reports of it. Connor brought his Magic Spoons to Indianapolis with him.
I did. I still use them though, Marissa. I do use them all the time when we have ice cream or we have ice.
You got like spoons from them.
So when we got when Magic Spoon became a sponsor of the pod forever ago, I thought it was an actual like spoon.
Oh my god!
So I get whoever is the woman who does. Is she still at the Athletic? Who used to send out the promos that we would get?
Yes, Alyssa.
Yeah, Alyssa. So Alyssa reached out to me. She goes, "Hey, we're going to send you a Magic Spoon." And I was like, "Sweet!" Like, well, I thought it was like going to be like I don't know, like a those like box knives or like something like that. Like different things pop up. Like, oh, here's a fork, here's a knife, here's a spoon. Like I had no idea. So then the whole box comes, and I'm like, "This is just freaking cereal. This isn't like, Magic
my spoon."
No, I was mad. I was annoyed. And now, granted,
but then you tried the cereal, and you were like,
"The cereal is great.
I
It's
love
excellent.
it,
all that fun stuff." And then Marissa, for my cereal, bought me Magic Spoons that change color.
They're just spoons that like when you dip
for
in
a kid,
milk,
basically.
Yes,
yeah.
Or like something
or
cold.
for a Connor.
Or for a Connor.
For a
Same
kid
thing,
or
or
Connor, it's the same.
Yeah, equivalent.
I loved it.
He's gonna be having those spoons with his kid when he has it.
So I'm not sharing.
Yeah,
Mine.
true,
She can get his own. She can get her own Magic Spoon.
Oh, geez.
All right. And with that, let's get back to the Jets, back to the quarterback position as well. And Derek Carr. We talked enough about Aaron Rodgers. Joe Douglas spoke quite a bit about Derek Carr. After, I will say, off the top, Joe Douglas, always good with a little joke, saying you guys want to hear all about the safeties, right? But then he moved on to Derek Carr. Let's hear a little bit of that, Marissa.
You guys have seen reports about us bringing Derek Carr in about a week and a half ago. I can tell you that was a fantastic visit. We really enjoyed spending time with him. Obviously, he's the only quarterback that I can really shed any light on for you guys, since he's the only quarterback that's a free agent. But I can say that he left a strong impression with everybody. And so, obviously, we're going to be exploring the veteran quarterback market this offseason, and we're going to look at every available option. We feel like when it's time to make the right decision, whenever they're process, we're going to make the best decision for the Jets.
So all good things he had to say. Have you guys heard anything about the meetings with Derek Carr other than what Joe said, in a news conference yesterday?
I mean, it's all like kind of obvious stuff, and a lot of it's been reported, but it's mostly that they hit it off. I think Saleh and Carr, have a very similar mindset in the way they approach life and things. So I think the fact that they hit it off, I know that they had dinner. Todd Downing's in the building. He's very close with Derek. I think it went very well. I don't believe any offer was given. I think they were just kind of feeling each other out. They're going to meet again. I believe Woody Johnson is meeting with Derek in Indy today, maybe. He met with some other teams yesterday. It is interesting that Derek came to Indy to do that. It's smart, I guess, because all the teams are here. Yeah. I think, like we were talking about earlier, it's all kind of in a holding pattern. I think there's definitely mutual interest. I can't really get a vibe on how he feels about the Saints or the Panthers came into the mix now. I imagine the Jets are maybe the most appealing out of those three, but
and Carolina's a good team.
Carolina's a good team. I'm skeptical that Carolina wants to pursue him or not. But I don't know. I'm sure you've been hearing a lot of the same stuff. But by all accounts, it went very well. They hit it off. I think they believe he can be the guy. I've heard questions from people around the league of if he can. The whole, everybody's heard this. If he can handle the New York thing and the weather thing. As Connor was saying, if they're winning, the New York thing is not going to be a problem. If they're losing, then everybody's going to have problems anyway. So I'm not as concerned about that as I think other people are.
Yeah, that's kind of honestly what Zach just said is it, because that is a real concern. I mean, you talk to people that know Derek personally, you talk to anyone who's worked with him, who was with him in Oakland, who covered him in Oakland, people who covered him in Oakland and LA, people who worked with him in Oakland and Vegas, sorry, not LA, Vegas. And the whole, can he handle the New York? Can he handle this market? Can he do it? I mean, it's a very, very, very real concern. And I know everyone's I see this on Twitter all the time where people are oh my God, you have such an overvalued sense of what the New York media is. This is terrible. It's no, I mean, there is a legitimate difference between playing in New York and not playing in New York. Yeah. And I'm not saying he goes into a press conference and there's freaking knives out and all that stuff and everyone's we're going to get you.
Boo.
Yeah, it's nothing like that. It's just when things go south, when things go negatively.
And the hard questions come. And
that's the thing is there is no pulling punches because at the end of the day, there's nobody in that media room who's a fan of the Jets. That's just a fact. We are there to cover the team. So when things are going really, really well, you write and ask things about things going really, really well. When things are going really, really poorly, you write and ask questions about why are things going very, very poorly. And that's going to be if he has a game where the Jets start the season 2-4 and Carr's, thrown 4 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. It's going to be tough. Should there be a quarterback change? Do you think it's time to go back to Zach Wilson? Should you have done this? All of that stuff is going to be taking place. And it is, can he handle it? Because he used to block members of the media in Vegas and not do that. And then also the other side of it is that there is the fan part of this too. I mean, Jet fans have been so starved of success for so long. This is the offseason where Woody Johnson, Robert Saleh, Joe Douglas, everyone is saying this is our year. We're going to get the quarterback. And once we get the quarterback, we believe that we are a legitimate contender within the conference. So if you get the quarterback and fans are all fired up and geeked up and juiced up and ready to go, and then all of a sudden they lay a dud in the opener, or they lay a dud in the first 3 games, or something along those lines, and they are 2-4 or 1-3 or something along those lines. Or
killed by the Patriots or something.
Yeah, there are going to be thunderous boos raining down on this guy from the rafters. What the hell? Bench him, calling for Zach, calling back for Mike White. All of this stuff is going to be happening, and it's can he handle it? And there are legitimate concerns from all people that know Carr better than you do, better than I do, better than anyone does. That can he do it? And they do not believe he can handle it. The Jets' stance with it all is that it doesn't matter because if things are going well, he's not going to have to deal with that. If things start to not go well and they go negative, well, we're all kind of screwed because it means Robert's probably going to be out of a job. Joe's going to be out of a job. Everyone's going to be in trouble. So it's like a weird little dynamic of like, yeah, we'll roll the dice on him not being able to handle it, because if he can't handle it when things go south, well, we're all going to be gone anyway. So we might as well just hope for the sunny days.
The thing I'm curious about, and we don't have direct line to Derek Carr, so it's like we don't know. Like,
you should track him down though and see if he says he want to come.
Well, apparently he walked into like the Marriott last night. Actually, I wasn't there.
Yeah, was that it?
Yeah.
Was it which one? The JW or the
the regular one?
Okay.
Where the bar closes at 11. Anyway,
I'll just sit down there now. I wonder if he heard me upstairs.
What I'm curious about is if Derek Carr thinks he can handle it. Like, nobody else seems to think he can, but like in his head, does he think, I'm not worried about that, I'll go to New York, I'll be able to handle criticism? Or does he like, I'm going to go there, they're going to be on WFAN every day, and Boomer is going to be saying
that's the other thing, the radio.
I think that people forget that I think the radio is honestly a big part of like what they associate New York media with.
It's honestly more, no offense to you guys, but I think it's more the radio than the beat writers.
I've always thought that, yeah.
You cannot
that's
read.
a lot of stuff. Like Tiki Barber's quotes are getting tweeted out every day when he says something crazy about the Jets. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there is a factor of if he can handle it, and like I said, in his head, if he thinks he can handle it, then the Jets are an obvious fit. If he looks at the Jets and he looks at the Saints, he's like, I mean, the Saints have a passionate fan base, but like you're down in Louisiana, and it's really not like as much of like even a national attention.
But that division is also
the division's easier. Division's way easier. Like there's definitely appeals to the Saints have some talent. Like so, I'm very curious to see like what Derek Carr is weighing and like how much is it going to be salary, because the Jets can probably pay him more than the Saints can, I imagine, because the Saints always have tough cap spot. So I mean, they have Todd Downing in the building. There's a lot of appeal, but ultimately, if he has to decide if he can go to New York, how he's going to handle it when things are going back, because things are not going to be perfect. They're not perfect for any team. You don't have Tom Brady. Like, there's going to be games where he has a bad game and he maybe is the reason they lose. And how is he going to handle his press conference afterwards? Is he going to, react poorly to a Connor question at the end where he asks if he puts it on his shoulders? Like, these are all things that happen in New York.
I'm done asking that. Those questions. You're not hearing those questions anymore from me.
So yeah, that's going to be the biggest question. I think the weather thing, I personally think that's overblown. I know everybody talks about it a lot, and all the evidence is that he hasn't played that well in it. But I think the number that's always given is that he's like 0-7 when it's less than 37 degrees.
That's legit too.
It's legit, but also that's 7 games out of 150 games he started.
7 road games also.
Yeah, 7 road games. So like if he's living in the cold, I feel like he'll be better off.
You adapt.
So I'm not as worried.
I feel
about
better
that.
about the cold in February than I do.
Handling the criticism.
You adjust.
Yeah, and what's crazy is you guys have known me for a while, and I think a decent number of the listeners have as well. You guys know I don't raise the pom poms and speak the company line of the Jets. I mean, I have no problem saying it stinks when it stinks, and then when it doesn't, it doesn't. But the fact is that I think ultimately what Carr is going to realize is that when you look at these other teams that are in on him, whether it is the Saints, whether it is the Panthers, whether the Colts go in on him again, or anybody else, like, the best team that is going, or the team that is going to give him the best opportunity to win a potential Super Bowl, it is the New York Jets. They have the champion, like, not to repeat this all again, but they have a championship level defense already. I know the offensive line has issues at tackle, but a lot of the problems, like, oh my God, the Jets offensive line was so bad last year, it's because of how decimated by injuries they were. Dwayne Brown, the Jets are fully committed to him coming back and believe that depending on who they get at quarterback, he will be back. So that's one legitimate offensive tackle that's probably going to extend his career. You have Max Mitchell, who you really like. You have the wild card in Mekhi Becton. You have to find a center, but you got 2 really good guards in Laken Tomlinson. If you see him on Instagram, he's busting his ass this offseason. Plus Vera Tucker, who's going to be back, who the Jets believe has all-world potential. They can maneuver contract, create a bunch of cap space, add another offensive tackle if they want to, draft an offensive tackle, and then you have your receivers, your running, all of this. They are ready to make a legitimate run. And when the Jets went through their postseason evaluation and went through all these games, they basically played it as far as, like, if we had this quarterback, how many more games do we win? If we have this quarterback, how many more games do we win? If we have this quarterback, how many more games than they win? And when it comes to Carr, they look at it and say, we are a legitimate contender with Carr. With Rodgers, we're basically in the Super Bowl, or we're going to have a chance to be in the Super Bowl. And Carr has to be able to see that too. So yeah, it might be tough in New York, but at the end of the day, if you can make it there, you're going to make it anywhere, which is that old silly little cliche. But if he comes to New York and he wins, that's what his career is missing. He doesn't have the playoff success. He doesn't have the Super Bowl. And if he wants that and that matters to him, he's going to get the same money everywhere. New York is the best opportunity for him. He just has to deal with the extra microscope, or like the being under intense scrutiny for any time you mess up. But here's the thing. You're not under intense scrutiny for every time you mess up if you don't mess up. Like, it's that simple.
Also, that's a good point. And it also makes me think that, like, and I think that this was reported that the Jets, like, pitched to him, like, you're gonna be a first ballot Hall of Famer if you come and win here. And I don't know if I believe that aspect of it, but the part I do believe though, like if Derek Carr comes and gets the Jets to the playoffs, like he's going to be a hero in New York. Like they're so starved to get back. You're talking about like the teams like talking about the Super Bowl. I think if they make the playoffs, fans will be happy. I don't think fans are expecting a Super Bowl even if they get either of them.
No, but the thing is,
I get what you're saying. I'm just saying, like
they beat that good.
If you get to the dance, you have a chance, and they have not gotten there in 12 years. So.
Never, man. My entire time to covering them, I've never seen a.
So that's why, so Joe Douglas has, he has the work cut out for him. You get the quarterback, you fix the holes that are obvious. They have a lot of interesting decisions to make cap wise. That I'm not sure what they're going to do. I can't really get a read on that. I think they'll probably cut like Corey Davis, but the other ones I'm not as sure about. But yeah, so Carr or Rodgers or fans are not going to be happy. I think that's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
So Douglas did mention cap space in his talks on Tuesday too. Currently, according to Over the Cap, the Jets are just 264,000 over the cap. So not drastically over it, but obviously not money to spend. But Douglas said, we still have a lot of flexibility. We don't have hardly any money prorated into the future on our salary cap. So we have great flexibility to create very large amounts of cap space if necessary. We saw the Saints, right, for years push the cap problems back year after year after year, right? It's something that if you're in the position the Jets are in right now, there's still a pretty good runway where you can kind of just push that problem. Eventually it catches up with you. But I think even though they don't have cap space right now on paper, there's going to be plenty if they need it, not just this year, but probably for a couple years before it really catches up with them. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, because I mean, you can do extensions, like you can take Carl Lawson and bump it out. You can add void years, which helps it out. I mean, the Jets, they don't have a lot of cap space now, but they have the means to create it.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing that Joe said, like the way he phrased it, like we haven't prorated any money, so it wouldn't be that hard for us to create cap space. I wonder if he meant like he's willing to restructure and like do a thing with, which he hasn't done, which has been a good thing that he hasn't done. And like, the Giants got into trouble with this with Gettleman at the end, and the Saints and the Eagles are always pushing it back. But so Carl Lawson is, I think, the most interesting one.
Yeah.
Because he's a really, really good player, but you also can get out of his contract like easily without dead cap, and that's like a big chunk of change. But also shouldn't be giving up on talented guys at premium.
And then you got to replace them.
Yeah, and you got to replace them.
So it's going to cost the same.
He's someone I'm curious if a guy like him, if they look at restructuring his deal or adding a year to it or adding void years to keep him around, and you as the cap goes up, you can like stomach spreading that out $5 million a year over the next 3 years. They're going to have to restructure CJ Mosley because you can't keep him at $21 million cap hit. Jordan Whitehead, maybe you keep him and you restructure. I think Dwayne Brown, maybe you restructure because you assume it's probably his last year if he comes back. Like they have ways to do it. They do have some tough decisions to make. You do have to replace Corey Davis if you cut him. You have to replace even Barrios if you cut him.
Or Denzel. You got Denzel to step up. It's a
finally gets a chance. Yeah. War of attrition. He's the only one that lasts as long as he does. They have the means to create. Like they're not going to go on a spending spree in free agency like the last few years. So the tough part is, and the part that we haven't really said, the reason why they're in this position where they have no cap space and they also don't have a quarterback is because they failed with Zach Wilson. And so like, that's why they're under so much pressure to get it right this offseason. And they're not going to have the ability to go on a spending spree like they did the last 2 years where they went into free agency with like $70 million of cap space. And they're able to sign Lake and Tomlinson and all these guys to big money. I don't think they're going to sign anyone to a huge contract. Maybe you get like a DJ Reed type guy. But they feel like they have the roster. Like they have a better roster now than they've had in a long time. You know the team better than I do. This is the best like on paper roster they've had in a while. So you fill out the holes that you have on the roster. You try to make it work with some of these guys like CJ and Carl Lawson, and you hope Jermaine Johnson develops. You hope Michael Clemens develops. You hope some of these guys develop. You get somebody on cheaper contracts. They're impending free agents. There's none of them that you're like we absolutely 100% need to bring them back.
Yeah,
Quincy Williams, I'm interested in see what they do. Connor McGovern, I feel like they might move on from him, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Sheldon Rankins, defensive tackle, they're gonna have to fill out that depth chart, but there's none that you're like, we lose him, we're screwed kind of thing, which is a good place to be in because they have a good core.
Yeah, if the Jets go into every offseason moving forward and they're the positions of need that you can say are safety and linebacker, they're going to take that because you can find plug-and-play players there in free agency. You can eventually draft someone in the middle rounds. I mean, they will take that every day of the week. The big one is they just need to figure out this quarterback
most important
situation.
position.
Yeah, and it's wild, man, because like you think about it, like I should actually go back and look specifically. I can't remember off the top of my head as colossal of a miss as Zach Wilson was at 2, getting another swing, or somebody getting swing at that. I just don't remember, because like the Jets evaluated everything about Zach Wilson. They met with him in Zoom. They met person. They watched his pro day. They decided to draft him second overall with everyone else that was on the board behind him. And I think what's helping them is, while Fields had moments last year and Matt Jones had moments as a rookie, really hasn't been the quarterback that they picked Zach Wilson over, that there was like, God,
that you're like beating yourself up.
Yeah. Or if it really was like a 50-50 split between Zach and Fields, and now an all-pro, all-world player, and you got screwed. It's like, I mean, that makes it look worse. But the fact that Salah's getting another swing at this, that Joe is getting another swing at this, that doesn't happen. Like, usually when you miss this bad, that's it, you're done. And so they know they need to get this right, because so few people get strike 2, and then no one gets strike 3, and that's what they're on. So they need to hit this one.
I looked it up at some point later in the season. I went back the last 15 years and looked at all the quarterback draft busts, and not a single coach was still there 3 years after that.
It's insane.
And most of the GMs, like some GMs lasted out because some GMs have like weird relationships with their owners or whatever.
Yeah.
It's pretty rare that the head coach survives it. So like that's why you're in a spot right now where you're going at the Jets have failed to draft the right quarterback for forever. And so that's why they haven't really done this. They haven't like gone all in on trying to get a veteran.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Correct.
Like the last time we Brett Favre, I guess. Where they go all in on trying to get somebody.
Yeah. Oh, I'm trying to think. Like, so,
because usually they try to like, okay, we're going to draft a guy. We have a bad draft.
Yeah, because they had Sam. Like, so
Sam
I started in 2014, and there was Geno and Fitz.
Yeah.
They ran it back in 16 with Fitz. They tanked in 17, and then they drafted Sam in 18. Exactly. So, and then Sam was as long as I've been there. Like, I get Jet fans will tell you like, oh, they'll remember back in the early 90s, but at least from 2014
it's been a while. So
yeah.
And because they also haven't had like a roster where they're a contender right now, and like we're a quarterback away. And,
correct. Yep.
I mean, the best case scenario would have been Zach Wilson is good right now. And then you have a guy on a rookie contract, and you're able to spend all this money, which they did the last 2 years.
Yeah.
But instead, they had one of the worst busts of all. Like, he's truly one of the worst busts. His Jamarcus Russell numbers.
Yeah. It's NFL history.
And so the craziest thing to me has been how willing they've been to like just without saying it, like admit that they're moving on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, Joe kind of said something nice about him yesterday. Sorry. Dying over here. But like, you don't keep saying like, we're going to get a veteran quarterback.
Yeah.
We're going to, the owner going on ESPN and being like, we need to upgrade the position. It's our biggest weakness. Like,
yeah, dude, it's stunning.
I've never seen anything like it, because he's on the roster still. Like, it's not like they got rid of him yet.
Yeah.
So.
It's basically gotten to the point where like he has struggled so much his first 2 years that whether it's his teammates, whether it's his coaches, whether it's front office, or whether it's ownership, they're all like, yeah, we missed on that one. Like, if it was any other team, it's almost like universally, you drafted a guy second overall 2 years ago, and everyone is in lockstep that no, he's not. We can't even consider him an option for next. Like, it's not even like, oh, he'll be the backup, and like we'll get somebody like Jimmy, or we'll get somebody like Ryan, and then we'll have an open quarterback competition. No, they are going to. We need to replace him. Yeah, and they drafted him 2 years ago, second overall. It is stunning.
At this point, like if Zach becomes anything, it'll just be like a bonus. They'll be like, all right, we have him on the roster, and he all of a sudden is good now.
But there's a chance he's not good. He would not start for 31 other teams.
Yeah.
If you would trade him now, you're not getting more than
that's
5.
the problem, which is why he's probably sticks around. Yep. I'm sure they would listen if somebody called and said like, hey, we'd like to talk to you about Zach Wilson. But so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. If they get another quarterback, like what that means is he going to be third string inactive every week? Like,
what's funny is I was out to dinner last night. Elliot Shore-Parks, who covers the Eagles for WIP, and he was asking about Zach Wilson. He goes like, and Duggan works for us, was saying us. You guys. That's
We're live here.
Duggan said the same thing to me. He goes like, you can't believe that they're actually going to keep him on the roster next year. Oh, yeah. He's like, and Elliot said, he goes like, dude, do you realize how big of a distraction that would be having Zach Wilson? I was like, no, you guys don't understand. Like, it's not a distraction whatsoever, because there's no teammates.
There's no contingent that's like going to bat. Like Carson Wentz is probably like what Elliot's thinking of. Like, there are people that love Carson Wentz in that locker room.
Correct. And like, you couldn't.
And I don't think anybody hates Zach, by the way. It's just like, no, everybody's like moved on.
They're realists. They look like there is going to be no distraction whatsoever with keeping him, because you don't have anyone that is banging the drum of put him in there. You had the exact opposite last year, where players were basically saying, get him the hell out of the lineup. Like, we are losing because of him. We need Mike. We need everybody. Like, just don't have him. So if you don't have the players that are clamoring in the locker room to put him in there, you don't have the coaching staff that's clamoring. You don't have the front office that's clamoring. You don't have ownership that's clamoring. he's just going to be there. And if you're the Jets looking at Zach Wilson, it's like, oh, let's just dump him. Let's dump him. It's a distraction. There is no distraction. But what you have to look at this is like, okay, we drafted the guy 2nd overall 2 years ago. The most we're going to get from him right now is a 5th round pick. Who's that 5th round pick going to be? Probably some dude who in the best case scenario turns into a special teams starter or a reliable backup. But in all likelihood, he's probably going to be out of the league within 3 years. Like, that's just a fact. In all likelihood, he's going to be out of the league within 3 years. So why would we trade Zach Wilson for that, have the mud in our face of drafting a guy's 2nd overall, trading for a 5th round pick? We'll just keep him, try to develop him, and see if we can't do something. Because the only thing that could make this Zach Wilson situation worse for the Jets is if they were to trade him to, say, the 49ers, who were high on Zach in the draft, or trade him to the Eagles, who were high on Zach in the draft for a 5th round pick. And then something happens where Zach takes over that team and becomes a star or a good quarterback or a serviceable quarterback. And suddenly everyone then turns and says, wait a minute,
It was the Jets'
Zach
fault,
wasn't the problem. It was the same old Jets. And that's what the Jets are going to try to avoid, because it would just, that's the, I mean, this is a worst case scenario, but I think Zach going and having
that would
success
just be like
elsewhere.
Insult to injury.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, one last thing before we say goodbye, and that is Quinnen Williams, the other big storyline here as we head towards the summer. The Jets have met with his agent, Nicole Lynn. What are you guys hearing as far as timing? I mean, I'm assuming that this is going to get done at some point, but does it feel like it's going to go right up until training camp? Is he going to miss some training camp? Is there going to be a little drama before it's done? What's the latest on Q?
So I don't think Joe is going to rush anything, but you look at, it's a very unique offseason for like interior defensive linemen, because Dexter Lawrence is up for a new deal. Jeffrey Simmons, Deron Payne just got franchise tagged. I'm sure there's some guys who need more money after all that. So they have a chance to like set the market, or they're going to have to react to the market. And so I'm very curious to see how that plays out, because Quinnen has said he's going to hold out, at least in the offseason, until he gets a new deal. But this is not going to be like a Jamal Adams situation. I wasn't here for that. Like these are two sides.
Your lucky stars.
Yeah, these are two sides that like want to get a deal done. Quinnen Williams not going to demand a trade. Like it'll get done. I don't know like a timeline. I don't know how far they are along. I'm sure being here and Joe being able to meet with Nicole in person is probably helpful. But I don't know. I don't know if you have a read on like time.
No, it's also a more valuable position than Jamal.
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
Beyond the personality differences and all of that.
They don't need to rush it.
Their priority right now is get the quarterback, and then after the quarterback, they'll start fortifying around the quarterback, and then they'll build out, and they'll get to Quinnen when they get to Quinnen. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that he's going to be with the Jets long term. I mean, yeah, he might miss OTAs, he might sit out minicamp, but he'll be back here for training camp and ready to go and be the monster that he is, and the dynamic, dominant player that he is. I think there's no doubt. I would be surprised. I would be very surprised if we're ever in a situation where we're talking about Quinnen Williams getting the franchise tag. Like, I think the Jets will have a long-term contract extension done well before that. There are just things of greater priority ahead of Quinnen Williams right now. It's get the quarterback, figure out that offensive line with the tackle position, and then you can work on taking care of him.
All right. This has been a lot of fun. Wish I was there with you guys, but good to actually at least see you all.
Man. Because you and I were here in 2020 or 2018.
It was 2020 because
right after
as
pandemic.
the jokes go, the combine started COVID, right?
Yes, that's right. So I remember like saying we were there. I was like, we're starting the hashtag Marissa to Indy. Like we were going to get Marissa here. We're going to get Marissa here. We're going to get Marissa here. Now we just flip it. We get Marissa and we lose you. And honestly, I liked it the other way more. So I think we should probably.
Wow.
Get off my set.
Yeah.
Oh God.
No, we missed you, Connor. It was good to have you back.
Yeah, I know. I love it. I wish.
And we're getting dinner tonight without Tim. Sorry, Tim.
I don't know. We might be at dinner without Connor tonight.
It'll just be Marissa.
Really rolling the dice here on this.
Yeah.
Finally, I'm sure we'll have you on again down the road, Connor. But
absolutely.
Good to see you. You guys have fun the rest of the time in Indianapolis, and we will be back. Well, I guess the next time we're going to be back is when either free agency or the Jets find a quarterback. We will be here immediately to react to that breaking news. While between now and then, go to theathletic.com/can't wait. You can subscribe right now to The Athletic for $1.99 a month for 12 months. If you're a new subscriber, one of our better deals. So jump on that, and we will talk to everyone soon.